Yeah, it's exciting. I feel like the West Coast was kind of let's see how everything's feeling post-surgery. I missed the first month of the season. I just wasn't ready to play any of those events yet. And it was really nice to get back and then even to get into contention one week. So my goal now, as we look towards the Masters, is to try to play difficult golf courses and work my way into contention and just see what I can improve upon by the time we get to Augusta. I'm not sure if they still do. They had one of the most prestigious junior golf events that I played in November, the Polo. I think it's in November, and I remember playing it because it's a bear of a golf course for teenagers. But yeah, it is. I can't remember, other than certain major championship venues. I can't remember the last time I played an event that I hadn't played before. So my prep will be different. I plan on touching them all today and spending quite a bit of time on and around the greens, and just, I think it'll be fun because sometimes I think if you play a course a bunch, you kind of are like, well, I'll go C9 and get I know a couple shots to hit around the greens, and that's nice. You can check the list, but it's almost kind of like a fun learning experience to go out and, I know the pins are going to be in the four corners, so what days do you attack and what days do you... And then after you watch this tournament enough on TV, especially the closing 5 or 6 holes, you got a pretty good idea of what to do, which is just hit the center of the greens and try to birdie the last. I think the idea is just to make the fan experience the best, make NBC get them very involved in what they think is going to be the best option, and ideally you end up having the most exciting Saturday, Sunday situation that's easy to follow with the most drama you can have that goes all the way down to the last hole. So we've had a couple different iterations of it. In the first iteration, I think the pushback was whoever it was didn't want 2 different champions. It was confusing on the same green. Then you go to the stroke format, and although easier to follow, I think I think the idea is the tour, the networks, and from polling fans, I think that they believe there's a possibility of a better format, whether that involves any kind of head-to-head matches. It involves less guys on Sunday all playing for it. I mean, I think everything's pretty much on the table, and I'm not sure what they've narrowed it down to since. Well, my hope is that it's not a new normal, because I don't enjoy the way it feels waking up, and if it's every day, it's okay by the time I play, but it's not ideal because I would like to be able to feel pretty good in all conditions, and it wasn't that way on the West Coast. Having said that, it was my first go at it, so I think a better test will be post Hilton Head maybe, where I go through a couple more stretches of tournaments, and ideally by then it's feeling a little bit better each morning. Anytime I had any roadblocks, anything that stung when I hit or whatever, it was would take a little break, work it back up, and then by the time I hit the same shot again 2 weeks later, it didn't hurt anymore. And so I had some some real experiences that tell me that everything's going to get better. I'm just trying to find the right balance of rest and playing, because it's not, I rested it for 6 days straight last week, and I came back and it was way worse the first day. It was 25 degrees and I was hitting off the mat, but it was still worse, as in, maybe, putting some force into it since it's healed, can sometimes actually loosen it up, can make it better, so it's trying to find that right balance on these full days. It was a lot easier when it was on a smaller ball count and you could take the time to mess with different options. Now, if I'm committed to, if I need to stop, I'll stop for a little, but I just feel like it's, power through. I'm not in pain, it just gets tight. I haven't played much in the last 6 months, so even though I played a few events, now this used to be the 1 week between what was the West Coast, a World Golf Championship, and then the Players. Before that, it was, you went in the schedule before Texas, the leading in the mat, and I've always played the Texas events. It was just quite simply a scheduling issue, so I never even looked at it. It wasn't because I looked at it and didn't want to play. It was just quite simply, I got to take a week off, or else I'm playing, 8 out of 9 or 7 out of 8 to start, and it's just not, it's not what I do. And so this year, the fact that I hadn't played much, and then I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be able to play going forward. Just I think this year's schedule is just a little bit up in arms for me as I try to get my feet under me. I also am playing a bit of catch up. I don't like finishing outside the top 50 with the new system. So if I'm healthy and feel like I can play, and I called my coach, it was Thursday or Friday of last week, and I just said, hey, what's this golf? He comes here every year. What's the golf course like for me? And he goes, I think it's a great fit. I mean, you got to drive the ball, obviously precise, but tough golf courses in the wind on Bermuda. That's kind of what I grew up on, and he thought it was a really good fit, and so I. It all came together in 12 hours essentially, but I was like, well, it's still under 32 here at home, and it was just a weird cold spell, and South Florida sounds nice. Well, I think a lot that's been done was reactive, and appropriately so, and I believe that again through the tour ideally is going through I know they're going through their process of future product model stuff involving networks, involving fans, involving sponsors. Those are the three that need to be involved, as well as obviously finding the right situation for the players, being at the forefront of their mind. I think it's more, I don't know if I have a great take on it personally. I think more so it's just figuring out exactly what the best future product model is, and we'll have to see what happens within, future investments, what that means, and then everyone trying to, if the game comes together ideally, then you kind of figure out what is the actual market, what is the right number of events, what is the right number in the events, and whether it's more in elevated type events but more players, or it's back to what it used to be. That I don't know, because again I've taken myself out of those conversations. So I think we'll have a good gauge off of this year of if this type of model works, and that doesn't mean that adjusting it on certain field sizes and whatnot wouldn't happen. It's just it's off to a good start in general this year. A lot of that probably has to do with, one, we've had great champions so far, and then you also, I think when you get bad weather everywhere, ratings go up too. So and then you got great Florida swing golf with drama-packed finishes, so it should continue these 4 weeks. I would say over the last year and a half, I spent actually a lot of time, more than ever, listening to guys, reaching out to some, plenty of guys reaching out to me, and hearing what they're saying, and then yeah, I mean, what's ended up really happening with the solution to when guys have, I don't want to call it complaints, but when things come up like that, it gets directed to tour management that go through either a statistic analysis on what they're saying to give them more information, stuff like that, where it's, if it's the point difference, and then saying, hey, we're willing to adjust, we just want to see a season first, stuff like that, and that has been done. That was done for this season. So it's the idea is to try to get everything as fair as possible while creating the most opportunities for the top guys to be playing the best golf courses and the best tournaments as often as possible together, and having pathways to create stars coming up from Canada, Latin America, through the Korn Ferry onto the PGA Tour, being able to have Ludwig come up and immediately make an impact into the biggest events. Those kind of pathways are what the tour has always been about. So having a combination of the bunch, I think, is what's going into the future product model, and everyone ideally is being heard. Again, I'd like to emphasize again that I'm no longer involved and can't speak for everyone in the past few months, but prior to that, I'd spent a lot of time talking with a lot of players and trying to direct them, not giving my opinion. I don't have the answers, but trying to direct them to the people who have the answers.